What's up YouTube? Welcome to Cars, Costs, and Technology. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 things I hate about my 2016 Corvette Stingray. Before we even get started, I want to point out that I also made a video about the top 5 things I love about this car. That was a much easier video because there's a lot more about this car that I like than I dislike. And I also want to point out that hate is really not the best word to describe how I feel about some of these things. They're more minor annoyances. I'm really bringing them up strictly for informational purposes, kind of help you guys know what could be improved on the C7 Corvette. There's always room to make the car better. So I also want to point out that I had a C6 Corvette in the past. I made a similar video on that car, so definitely check that out if you're interested in C6 Corvette content. That was much easier to make because there's more concerns or issues that I have with my C6 Corvette than I did with the C7. It's been really solid so far, but here are a few things that I have disliked thus far. So number one is the direct injection noise. The direct injection is actually a really great thing from an engineering standpoint because it allows the car to have more horsepower and better fuel economy at the same time, but unfortunately one of the byproducts of the direct injection is a loud knocking or ticking noise. I have had the car checked out and everything was fine. This is just the standard noise that this engine makes, so I'm going to play a clip so you can hear it. So like I said, everything checked out on the car and there's no problems. That's just the standard noise that this system makes. It can be kind of concerning when you first hear it, especially to the untrained ear. You think that there may be either cheap gas in the car and it's knocking, or maybe something wrong with the engine. You know, this is a pretty popular topic on Corvette forums as well, so definitely keep an eye out for that and make sure you don't confuse that for something else going on with the engine. But next thing I want to address is the contact surfaces in the interior. Now, don't get me wrong, the interior in this car is great. It actually made it on the list of things I love about this car. The design is really nice, but there are just a few surfaces in the car that you touch on pretty much a daily basis, like this turn signal stalk, buttons on the steering wheel, the parking brake, that for some reason they just finished them in a really cheap and flimsy plastic, and it really takes away from the overall experience. And it's unfortunate that such commonly used buttons are such poor finish. I would have much rather sacrificed in areas that you don't touch or don't use very often and got a much more premium finish or feel on these buttons. But, you know, again, it's not a deal breaker. It's just unfortunate that some of these don't feel very premium, feel like they're not exactly built very well. Kind of reminds me of my C6, just the slightest on these specific things. Next thing I want to talk about is the Chevrolet Infotainment system. I don't want to bash the system because it does work pretty well and it's got a lot of options and features in there. But I do think as a whole, especially from a user interface standpoint, it's just kind of looks dated. I mean, the colors are really odd, the font, just the layout in general. You know, I just don't think that they're going in the right direction with this software. Maybe it's due for a revamp and it'll be redesigned soon, but as a whole, you know, especially now that I've been using Android Auto for a little while, or if you're a fan of Apple CarPlay, I think you'd agree that I think auto manufacturers, if it's me at least, I would say save your money on developing this software. You know, let Android or iOS, you know, develop a platform for users to use for an infotainment system in the cars. Spend that money on, you know, increasing the fuel economy or, you know, increasing the performance of the car. I just think that them creating this software is kind of redundant. You know, we've already got great software interfaces and experiences from smartphone manufacturers. I don't think that we need the automobile manufacturers to make it as well, but that's just my outlook on it. Next thing that I want to talk about is the wheel size on my car. Now, mine being a 1LT, I actually have the 18-inch front wheels and 19-inch rear wheels, and I think they look pretty good overall, especially when you just look at it with no comparison or no reference point. But when you do compare it to, say, even if it's a 1LT with the Z51 package that has the 19-inch front wheels and 20-inch rear wheels, you can definitely tell that it fills the wheel well a lot better, looks a little more aggressive. And hindsight 2020, I would have really sought out that option a little more had I known and again, compared them better in person. But it still doesn't look bad. Again, I think it looks great. But thankfully, in 2018, they're actually switching up the wheel options for the base model. As of 2018, you can no longer get these 18-inch and 19-inch wheel combination. It's going to start by default with the 19-inch front and 20-inch rear. Just because I think that's just a more popular option, and GM knows that that's going to sit better with the Corvette buyers, and I agree with that decision. I think that that's due for a change now. Now, next thing I want to talk about is the auto-dimming mirrors, or lack thereof. Again, this comes down to the trim level of my particular Corvette. That is an option on Corvettes, but I do not have the auto dimming mirrors, and with this car being so low, when somebody gets behind you, even if they have their low beams on, they tend to shine directly in your mirrors. And with the modern lighting technology, how bright it is, it can be pretty blinding. I'm thinking about getting the windows tinted in the car just to kind of help with this, because like I said, it can be pretty distracting when somebody comes up behind you and it looks like there's a spotlight or flashlight shining in your eye from your mirror. So again, none of these are deal breakers, just things that can be brought up that I'm not exactly crazy about on my car. If you have any suggestions, leave it in the comments. That could be a remedy to some of these things I brought to light. But if you enjoy C7 Corvette content or Corvette content in general, definitely subscribe to the channel. Plenty more videos to come. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.